You have the emotional range of a teaspoon. Have you ever heard that before? Or maybe you've been described that way. I've seen it on movies. I know Hermione says it to Ron in the 5th book of Harry Potter series. And I have been described that way. And even though I think there is some truth to it, it's meant as an insult, that there's a problem. And so I think it's important to talk about that. I've thought about it a lot over the years. And yeah, it has bothered me to think that I have a shallow range of emotion where somebody else has more. Maybe it feels like more mature range of emotions. And one movie that actually helped quite a bit, and it's funny because it's Inside Out. It's a cartoon movie, and here I am relating to this cartoon little girl, but it's great. At the start, there's these 4 basic distinct emotions, and there's this joystick inside the girl's head, and so one emotion is in control, maybe joy, and then suddenly anger takes over. And so there's a very clear transition. Now anger's in control, memories are being captured, and so it's this basic existence. And by the end of the movie, she's grown up, she's gotten older, and these basic emotions are now starting to mix to create this picture of complexity in emotions. And even new emotions are coming in, and the control board itself isn't just a little joystick, it's got more buttons, and so it's creating this idea of growth and depth of emotions. And I'm watching this movie thinking, I still relate more to the little girl. I'm like, grow up, Brian, get more emotions. And so, yeah, I've thought a lot about it, and it has bothered me because I feel like I have a shallow range of emotions, but I'm not so sure anymore. Like, I know there's going to be some strengths and some drawbacks for having, a teaspoon amount of emotions, let's say. I know I'm simplifying it. And there's probably some strengths and weaknesses for people that have a bucket load of emotions over here. And so that's what I want to think about. So yeah, often I feel like I'm controlled by happiness and joy. And then, anger kicks in. I've got a short fuse and I can get really angry quick. And I don't like that. That's a problem. I wish that was different. But it goes away quickly. And so it doesn't bother me for long, and I can switch back to my happy self again very quickly, where somebody else, maybe if they get angry, it can impact them for hours or ruin the night or maybe even longer. I know there's somebody in my extended family, they were hurt deeply by a friend, a close friend, and it made them physically sick, physically ill over it. And I've never experienced that. I'm not saying one's good or one's bad, one's right or one's wrong. I'm just saying that is what it is. I'm probably not going to change, and so I'm not going to suddenly get 10 teaspoons of emotion if I only have one. I just need to understand myself and work with who I am. Another example is connection with friends. I don't have this natural desire or a natural reminder to get together and connect with friends where somebody else might. And, for me, I like to do it. And when I do it, it is great. And I see my friend, and it's like, I'm right back to where we left off, and maybe hug, and it feels great. And I could feel it welling up inside me, but I also feel it go away really quickly within minutes. Where somebody else, maybe there's quite a bit of buildup, I'm going to see them in a couple days, and you can feel it building up. And when you see them, it's an overwhelming, great experience. And that friendship experience can sustain and nourish and last for days, and maybe until you see them maybe a month later. And again, it's not right or wrong, it's just different. Another one at work, I was really strongly reminded of this during the COVID and the pandemic. Maybe you've got these 2 people and they've got the same workload, and the workload didn't really increase, but the stress of the pandemic, they dealt with it and impacted them in very different ways. One person seemed to thrive and another person really seemed to implode and suffer over it. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's just kind of the way that their emotions are. And so for me, maybe there's a job to do, and it's a gross job or a difficult job, and it would bother somebody or really stress them out. For me, it's not a problem. I seem to thrive in high stress situations. I can solve problems really quickly, where somebody else needs to plan and be careful and think it through and take time and maybe can be impacted more by the stress of that job than somebody else. I have a friend, a dear friend, who talks about her empathy and how she's got to be careful with what she watches on the news. And we saw this happen at work. And again, she's 50 years old. It's not like she's doing this just for attention. It's genuinely who she is. There was a landslide that she saw on the news that happened across the world. and it physically impacted her and made her sad throughout the day. And sadly for me, I could watch some horrific thing on the news and it doesn't impact me. But the idea is that it spills over into our relationships, where maybe for me I have a hard time empathizing, and that makes it hard for me to connect on a deep level where this person can connect. They can empathize, but they can also be incredibly bothered by some of these things. And so what I'm saying is not right or wrong. It's just who we are. And so we need to get some tips and tricks to help us deal with who we are. For me, I need to schedule into my calendar to get together with friends because I know it's good for me and I like doing it, but I don't have a natural desire or reminder. So I've got to use these tips and not necessarily think about changing who I am or beating myself up, right? And it really did happen at work. You start to look at how somebody else is dealing with a situation. I wish I was more like them. They're thriving right now and I'm suffering. So I don't think we should do that and beat ourselves up over it. We just need to understand who we are. I see it happening in relationships, even for me with affection. I don't necessarily need a lot of it, right? I don't need that really close touch and cuddling where somebody else does. And that could be a problem, right? A real drawback. And so again, we need for me, I need to schedule that in, the dates and the times where I can be close and understand that's who I am. So that's the encouragement this week. Go online, and take some surveys and figure out who you are, what makes you tick, and learn some new tips and strategies. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think about wishing you were somebody different or trying to change. If you are a teaspoon, that's your teaspoon. And if you're a bucket, great. That's your bucket. Decorate it, celebrate it. That's just who you are. Don't need to necessarily change. So thanks for listening, and talk to you more next week.